The coffee in my cup had gone cold, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. Say that again, I whispered, though I'd heard him clearly. Daniel leaned back in his chair like he owned the air around him. I said, you'll never be anything without me. My lips parted, but no words came. After everything, that's what you think. He sighed, glancing at his phone. I'm being honest. We've been stuck in this nothing life for years. I can't keep waiting for you to figure yourself out. I stared at him, my throat tightening. Stuck? I worked 2 jobs so you could finish your degree. I paid rent when you couldn't, and I'm grateful. He cut in. But gratitude doesn't build a future. Claire, she's different. She's ready for the life I want. I blinked. Claire? The Claire from your office? He didn't even flinch. Yeah, for a moment. I thought the air had left the room. You've been seeing her? It's not like that, don't you dare. I snapped. Don't you dare tell me it's not like that. His jaw tightened. I'm telling you because I respect you enough not to lie. I laughed, but it came out sharp and ugly. Respect? You're leaving me for another woman. And you call that respect? I'm leaving because I need someone who pushes me forward. He said, his voice rising. You're comfortable here. I can't be comfortable anymore. Comfortable? My voice cracked. Daniel, we've been scraping by on instant noodles for months. My shoes have holes in them. You think this is comfort? He stood, grabbing his jacket. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to feel guilty for choosing what's best for me. I pushed my chair back so hard it scraped the floor. And what about what's best for me? What about the years I gave you? My time, my money, you'll be fine, he said, looking right through me. You're smart. You'll figure something out. I swallowed hard. You don't get to tell me I'll be fine while you walk out on me. He hesitated, hand on the doorknob. You'll thank me one day. I almost laughed again, but it stuck in my throat. No, one day. You'll regret this. And when you do, I won't be there. His expression flickered, but only for a second. Goodbye, Mia. The door shut. For a long moment, I just stood there, staring at the dented coffee table, the mug with the chipped handle, the pile of unopened bills on the counter. The silence was so loud it felt like it was pressing against my ears. My suitcase was under the bed. I pulled it out, my hands moving without thinking. T-shirts, jeans, the one dress I owned that wasn't thrifted, they all went in the drawer, stuck halfway, like even the furniture didn't want me to leave. The sound of a text pinged from my phone. I didn't look. I zipped the suitcase, grabbed my worn coat, and stood in the doorway one last time. The walls felt closer, like they were shoving me out. Fine, I muttered to the empty room. If I'm nothing without you, then watch me become everything without you. The smell of damp carpet hit me every time I walked into that tiny rented room. You'll get used to it, the landlady had said. I never did Dotty work. The office printer groaned louder than most of the employees. On my second day, my boss, Mr. Peters, pointed at a pile of papers. File those, alphabetical, and don't mix up the vendor contracts this time. I won't, I said, though my stomach twisted. Lunchtime was a paper cup of instant noodles. My phone buzzed another rejection email. Bad news? Asked Jenna, the receptionist, sipping her soda. Just another will keep your resume on file, I said, forcing a smile. She shrugged. That's corporate code for never. Nights were worse. Lying on the squeaky bed, I replayed every detail of that last fight with Daniel. His flat tone, the way he didn't even look at me when I packed my suitcase. I kept telling myself I was better off, but the echo of his words, you'll never be anything without me, was poison. One cold morning, I decided to take a different bus. I didn't know why. Maybe I just wanted a change in scenery. As I walked toward the stop, I froze. A black luxury car pulled up across the street. The door opened, and Claire stepped out, hair perfect, heels clicking. Daniel followed, laughing at something she said. He looked comfortable, like the past 5 years with me had never existed. I ducked into the doorway of a bakery, my breath catching. My reflection stared back from the glass pail, tired, holding a crumpled tote bag. They walked past, not seeing me. Her hand brushed his arm. My chest tightened until it hurt. Inside the bakery, a cashier called, "Can I help you?" I shook my head and stepped back out, watching the taillights vanish out of the office. I slammed my bag onto my desk. Jenna peeked over her monitor. Bad commute? No, I said. Just saw something I wish I hadn't. Mr. Peters appeared. Mia. The copier jammed again. Fix it before the meeting. Yes, sir. As I wrestled with the machine, Ethan, the quiet finance guy, walked past. "Don't stick your hand into far," he said. I gave a half smile. "Thanks for the tip. Looked like you needed it," he said, and kept walking. That night, I sat on my bed staring at the peeling wallpaper. My phone lit up with a message. From Jenna. "Happy hour tomorrow? My treat." "Can't," I typed back. "Got plans." But I didn't have plans. What I had was a promise, one I whispered to myself in that silent room. This isn't where my story ends. The words felt heavy, but they stayed with me. I didn't know how or when, but I'd make sure Daniel would see me again, not as the girl he left, but as the woman he'd wish he'd kept. And when that day came, I wouldn't hide behind any glass. The office was almost empty when I heard footsteps behind me. "You're still here." Ethan's voice was calm, almost curious. I didn't look up from the spreadsheet. "Reports due tomorrow. Half the numbers were wrong. I'm fixing them." He came closer, leaning over my desk. "You have a good head for numbers." I raised an eyebrow. "Most people call it being stuck with grunt work. Most people can't read a balance sheet without mixing up liabilities and assets," he said, scanning my screen. "You caught 3 errors the finance team missed. Lucky guess," I said, though my cheeks warmed. He smiled faintly. "Luck doesn't double-check formulas." For a moment, we worked in silence, him standing there, me tapping the keyboard. "Why are you even still here?" I asked. "CFOs don't usually lurk around interns." "I'm not lurking," he said. "I'm observing." "That sounds creepier." He actually laughed, short, quiet. "Fine. I'm here because I like seeing who cares enough to stay late. And then you care," he said simply. "That's rare here." I shrugged. "I care about paying rent." "That too," he said, straightening. "You ever think about moving up?" I snorted. "Moving up to what? Filing cabinet manager? Maybe something bigger." "Come to my office tomorrow. Bring coffee." I frowned. "Why?" "You'll see." The next morning, I knocked on his door with 2 cups. He waved me in. "Close." That sounds ominous," I said, setting the coffee down. He slid a folder toward me. "Confidential project. The CEO wants a restructuring plan before the board meets next quarter. I need someone to help me sort through the mess." I blinked. "Me?" "Yes, you. You're fast, accurate, and you don't gossip. Maybe I just don't have friends here." "Same thing," he said with a shrug. "Interested?" I hesitated. "If this is above my pay grade, it is," he said, cutting me off. "But it's also above your skill grade for now. That's why I'll teach you." "Why me?" I asked quietly. He looked right at me. "Because you have something to prove." The words hit harder than I expected. "Fine, I'm in." Over the next weeks, we worked side by side after hours. Ethan explained things I didn't even know existed. Corporate debt structures, shareholder leverage, hostile takeover mechanics. One night, I leaned back, rubbing my eyes. "You do realize I was hired to answer phones, right? And now you're helping plan a multi-million-dollar restructuring," he said. "You're welcome. You're enjoying this way too much." Watching someone realize they're capable of more? "Yeah, I enjoy it." I studied him. "You really think I can handle this?" "I wouldn't waste my time if I didn't." It was a simple answer, but it lit something in me. The last evening we spent before the first draft was done, he handed me a flash drive. "Lock this up, and don't talk to anyone about it." I took it carefully. "What's on here?" "The first step towards something bigger," he said. "Much bigger." I didn't know it then, but he was right. The office felt different that week, quieter, heavier. "Did you hear?" Marissa whispered as she passed my desk. I glanced up. "Hear what?" "About the CEO. Heart attack. He's in the hospital." I kept my voice low. "Is it serious?" "Serious. Enough that the board's scrambling," she said before slipping away. "By lunch." The whispers had grown louder. Ethan appeared at my desk with 2 coffees. "Don't believe everything you hear," he murmured. "So there's nothing going on?" I asked. He hesitated. "There's always something going on. You'll see in the meeting this afternoon." I followed him to the boardroom later, keeping my notepad ready. Conversations hushed as the agenda slid in front of me. Halfway down the page, my pen froze. "Anderson Group?" My breath caught. Ethan noticed. "Something wrong?" I forced my voice. "Steady." "No." The meeting began, but I barely heard the introductions. "Our team has identified an opportunity," one director said. "The Anderson Group is vulnerable after recent market shifts. We could move for a controlling stake." Someone else chimed in. "A hostile acquisition could give us significant leverage." The words echoed in my head. "Anderson Group? Daniel's family. My pulse quickened. What's our timetable? Another asked. Soon. Their current leadership is distracted. I couldn't stop my fingers from tightening around my pen. Ethan leaned closer. You know them? I whispered back. Yes. How? Well enough. His brow furrowed, but before he could ask more, the CFO continued outlining the plan. Public perception? Someone asked. We'll spin it as strategic growth, the CFO said. They won't see it coming. I swallowed hard. Daniel had always bragged about taking over the empire someday. He made it sound untouchable, bulletproof. Now, here I was, sitting in the room where people planned to gut it. Any concerns? The chairman asked. I didn't speak. My mind was racing. Ethan broke the silence. We need more intel before proceeding. The chairman nodded. Then get it. Quietly. The meeting moved on, but I was somewhere else entirely, in Daniel's smug grin, in the way he once said I'd never match his world. When it ended, Ethan caught my arm. Talk. In your office, I said. Once the door shut behind us, he asked, you want to tell me why you looked like you'd seen a ghost? I exhaled slowly. Anderson Group belongs to my ex's family. The same ex? Yes. Daniel. Ethan leaned back. That explains a lot. I don't know if I can be part of this. He studied me. Or maybe you're the most valuable person in the room. I stared at him. You think fate just handed me a weapon? He shrugged. You going to use it? I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure yet. The boardroom was chaos. We move too fast, and the market reacts. One director argued. We move too slow, and someone else gets there first. Another shot back. I sat in the far corner, taking notes no one would read, pretending to be invisible. Market research. The CEO said sharply. We need overnight numbers. Silence. No one volunteered. I'll do it. I heard myself say. Every head turned. Ethan's eyes met mine, and the corner of his mouth twitched. She can handle it, he said before anyone could object. The meeting dragged on, but my mind was already racing. As soon as we adjourned, Ethan caught up to me in the hallway. You know what you just signed up for? 14 hours of spreadsheets, I said, and a chance to prove yourself to the entire board, he added. Don't screw it up. I won't. That night, the office was silent except for the hum of my laptop. Numbers flickered across the screen. Revenue reports, debt disclosures, shareholder positions. Why is this familiar? I muttered, scrolling. Then I saw it. Anderson Group's quarterly losses buried in footnotes. Weak liquidity. Overextended credit lines. My pulse kicked up. I called Ethan. They're bleeding cash. Badly. Prove it, he said. I can. I replied. Give me 3 hours. By midnight, my desk was a battlefield of coffee cups and printouts. I highlighted patterns, linked debts to subsidiary losses, and traced every financial crack in their foundation. A T342M. I sat back, rubbing my temples. It was all there, a blueprint for taking Anderson Group down faster than they'd ever see coming. My hands shook as I attached the file. The subject line read, Acquisition Leverage Points. Before hitting send, I whispered, This is for you, Daniel. Ethan called 5 minutes later. You realize what you've just done? Yes, I said. I just gave us the knife to cut them open. He exhaled slowly. You're dangerous when you're motivated. I'm not dangerous, I said, smiling to myself. I'm just done playing small. When I finally shut down my laptop, the sun was rising. My eyes burned, my shoulders ached, but I didn't care. This wasn't just a job anymore. This was personal. The conference hall gleamed like polished ice, all glass, chrome, and cold air. Stay sharp, Ethan murmured as we entered. And remember, you're not here to blend in. I never planned to, I said. Our team took seats along one side of the table. The Anderson Group delegation filed in from the opposite door. And there he was, Daniel. His stride faltered. His eyes locked on mine. You? He muttered, just loud enough for me to hear. I smiled politely. Mr. Anderson, I said as if greeting a stranger at a networking event. His jaw tightened. Since when do you? Ethan cut him off. Shall we begin? We opened with formalities, but Daniel's gaze kept drifting back to me, searching for the girl he used to know. She wasn't here. Miss Carter, the Anderson CFO said. You've been given a role in the negotiations? That's correct, I replied smoothly. I'll be addressing market positioning and risk assessment. Daniel's brow furrowed. Risk assessment? You? Is there a problem? I asked. He leaned back, just surprised. I get that a lot, I said. sliding the first report forward. Our analysis shows your expansion into secondary markets is optimistic, given your current liquidity. The CFO glanced at Daniel. Liquidity is stable. I tilted my head. Is it? Daniel's lips pressed into a thin line. Careful, Emily. I'm just stating facts. I turned to our CEO. Shall I elaborate? Please, he said, smiling faintly. I outlined the cracked subsidiary losses, high debt ratios, unsustainable credit facilities. My voice stayed calm, almost bored, as if their collapse was inevitable and I was just reading the weather report. Daniel's knuckles whitened on the table edge. You've done your homework. I always do. The CFO tried to redirect. Let's focus on potential synergies. Synergies don't matter if the ship is already taking on water, I said. A beat of silence. Ethan leaned forward. What Miss Carter is suggesting is that we move to secure controlling interest. Before those cracks widen, Daniel's eyes narrowed. So that's what this is. A hit job dressed as business. I met his stare. It's business, Daniel. Nothing more. Nothing more? He repeated softly. You expect me to believe that? I shrugged. Believe what you want. I'm here to do my job. The CEO cleared his throat. Gentlemen, let's not get personal. Too late for that. The rest of the meeting was numbers, terms, and polite threats. But every time I spoke, Daniel's attention snapped to me like a wire under tension. When we adjourned, he caught me at the door. What are you doing here, Emily? Really? I looked him straight in the eye. Working. That's not it. Maybe. Not, I said, stepping past him. But it's all you need to know. His voice followed me out. You think you've won something today? I didn't turn around. Not yet. In the elevator, my hands trembled not from fear, but from the rush. For the first time in months, I wasn't the one reacting. I was the one striking first. And the shock in his eyes? That was just the beginning. The meeting had barely ended when I felt a shadow fall over me. Can we talk? Daniel's voice was low, sharp. I turned slowly. About what? How you ended up here. His eyes searched mine, like he was trying to read between the lines. Of my face. Hard work, I said, shifting my laptop under my arm. You should try it sometime. He flinched, just slightly. You're different. I'd hope so. I stepped past him, but his hand brushed my sleeve. You can't be serious about working with them. Why wouldn't I be? Because they're going to get Anderson Group. I let a faint smile touch my lips. That's business. Behind the scenes, the game was already in motion. That night, I slipped into the war room where the acquisition team pored over numbers. Ethan glanced up. Got something for us? He asked. Always. I slid a folder across the table. Revised. Debt reports. Turns out their credit lines are thinner than they claim. Ethan skimmed it, eyebrows lifting. You know this will ruin him. That's the point. He studied me for a beat. You're colder than I thought. I'm focused. I corrected. Over. The next week, the cracks began to show. Daniel's confident emails turned curt, then rambling. In meetings, he overcompensated with forced laughter, his tie askew. 3 days before the next negotiation, my phone buzzed. Daniel, we need to talk. Urgent. I ignored it. A tea lunch. Ethan leaned toward me. He's calling around, trying to delay the vote. Let him. Are you sure you want to push this far? I've barely started. That evening, in the lobby, Daniel caught me again. You think you're clever, don't you? He said. I think I'm doing my job. This isn't you, Mia. You have no idea who I am anymore. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're playing with fire. These people don't care about you. Maybe I don't care about them either. Maybe I just care about winning. His jaw tightened. Is that what this is? A game? Call it whatever you want. He shook his head. You're going to regret this. I walked away without answering. Later that night, in the quiet glow of my desk lamp, I forwarded another set of reports, this one exposing a hidden liability. In Anderson Group's overseas branch, Ethan called me 5 minutes later. You just handed us the final nail in the coffin. Good. Let's make sure it lands. The next morning, Daniel's tone had shifted from defiance to desperation. Mia, I'm asking you as someone who once cared about you, stop this. I didn't even pretend to soften. You cared about me when it was convenient. Now it's not. He exhaled slowly, defeated. I don't even recognize you. That's the idea. When I hung up, I caught my reflection in the glass wall, steady eyes, a calm mouth. The storm was building, and for the first time in years, I was the one who'd called the lightning. I was halfway through drafting the morning report when the doorbell rang. It was almost midnight. I opened the door and froze. Daniel? He looked wrecked. His tie hung loose, his eyes bloodshot. Claire left me. I leaned against the frame. And you came here because? Because I didn't know where else to go. His voice cracked. I crossed my arms. That's not my problem anymore. He stepped forward. Please, just hear me out. I didn't move. You have 30 seconds. I made mistakes, he said quickly. I thought Claire was what I wanted. I was wrong. She only cared about the money. When it dried up, she was gone. I raised an eyebrow. So now you remember I exist? That's not fair, not fair? I laughed, sharp and cold. Daniel, do you remember the night I told you about the promotion I'd worked years for? And you told me it was cute. I thought I could compete with men in the industry? His face tightened. I was stupid, you were cruel. I cut in. Every time I tried to grow, you clipped my wings. He took another step, desperation in his eyes. Let me make it right. We can start over. I'll treat you better, I swear. Better? I repeated softly. I don't want better. I want someone who never made me beg for respect in the first place. His jaw clenched. You're really not even going to try? I don't go backwards, Daniel. Silence stretched between us. He swallowed. Hard. So that's it? That's it. I pushed the door, but his hand caught it. Please, I've lost everything. I looked him dead in the eye. Then maybe it's time you learn what that feels like. The door clicked shut. I leaned against it, my hands trembling not from doubt, but from holding firm. The next morning, I was in the office before sunrise. Ethan spotted me in the war room. You're early. Couldn't sleep, I muttered, setting down my coffee. He glanced at me, reading more than I was saying. Was it him? I met his eyes. Yeah, he wanted another chance. And I said no. Ethan nodded slowly. Good, because you're close. You know, one final push and the board will approve the takeover. I'm not doing this just for the takeover. He tilted his head. Then what? I stared at the spreadsheet in front of me. Because every time I win here, I erase a little more of who I was with him, and I like who I'm becoming without him. Ethan smiled faintly. That's the kind of power no one can take away. I exhaled, my shoulders loosening. Exactly. And for the first time, revenge didn't feel like the destination. It felt like the road I'd needed to rebuild myself. By the time I stepped into the office, the building was buzzing. Phones rang nonstop. Reporters camped outside the glass doors. Ethan caught me by the elevators. You've seen the news? I shook my head. I've been in back-to-back calls. His grin was sharp. We closed the deal. We own controlling shares in Anderson Group. The words hit me like a jolt. It's official? As of 8:30 this morning. He leaned in. Daniel's father resigned. Effective immediately. I blinked. That fast? Faster than anyone thought possible. You should see Daniel's face. He's been pacing the lobby, trying to get anyone to return his calls. A flicker of satisfaction warmed my chest. Guess karma doesn't like to waste time. Before Ethan could reply, my phone buzzed. Reception's voice came through. The CEO wants to see you. Now. My stomach tightened. I'll be right there. I walked into his office, the blinds half drawn. He was seated behind his desk, still pale from surgery but sharper than ever. Sit, he said. I did. Is everything all right? He studied me for a long moment. More than all right. You've been instrumental in this takeover. I've been watching every step. I swallowed. I just did my job. No, he said firmly. You went beyond. You saw opportunities no one else did. You pushed when others hesitated. And now he reached for a folder. We have a new challenge ahead. My pulse quickened. What kind of challenge? The newly merged division needs a steady hand. Someone who understands both sides. I can't be that person right now. I frowned. So who? You. He slid the folder toward me. Acting CEO. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. You're serious? You've earned it, he said simply. My voice was barely a whisper. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he replied. I let out a shaky laugh. Yes. His smile was small but certain. Then go make history. I left his office clutching the folder, the title already burning in my mind. Acting CEO. Ethan was waiting outside. Well? I handed him the folder. Read it. He flipped. It open. His eyes widening. You're kidding. I'm not. Claire's going to choke when she hears. Let her, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Down in the lobby, Reporters swarmed the revolving doors. Flashes went off, microphones shoved toward me. "Miss, how does it feel to take control of Anderson Group's most valuable assets? Is it true Daniel was removed from all decision-making?" I kept walking, answering only what I chose. "The merger will benefit both companies. Our focus is growth." As the elevator doors closed, I caught sight of Daniel through the glass wall. He was on his phone, his face tight with panic. He saw me. Our eyes met for one charged second. I didn't stop. When the elevator reached my floor, I stepped out into the hum of my new kingdom. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from the thrill of knowing I wasn't just part of the game anymore. I was running it. I spotted him before he saw me. The gala was a blur of champagne, glittering gowns, and polite laughter, but Daniel stood out thinner, paler, his once perfect suit hanging loose on his frame. "Claire," his voice caught as he stepped toward me. I turned slowly. "Daniel." He gave a faint, almost embarrassed smile. "You look different." "I know." He hesitated. "I underestimated you." I tilted my head. "Yes, you did." His jaw tightened, then slackened. "I thought I knew you." I thought he out. "Never stand up for myself?" I cut in. "Fight back? Survive without you?" He exhaled sharply. "I didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it?" His eyes dropped. "I thought I was the one in control. I was wrong. That much is obvious." He gave a small, bitter laugh. "You're enjoying this." "I'm not." I sipped my champagne, watching him squirm. "I'm just done." "Claire, I lost everything. The company, my position, your pride?" I asked softly. "Your safety net? The world you thought you owned?" He swallowed. "You don't have to rub it in." "I'm not rubbing it in. I'm telling you the truth. You built your empire on people you thought wouldn't fight back. I was one of them. Not anymore." He stared at me for a long moment. "I loved you." "No," I said, shaking my head. "You loved control. You loved convenience. You loved yourself." His lips parted as if to argue, but nothing came out. I glanced at the chandelier above us, the light scattering like broken glass. "I'm not angry anymore, Daniel. You can keep your apologies. I don't need them." He stepped closer. "And what do you need?" "Nothing from you." He nodded slowly, the fight draining from his posture. "You've changed." "Yes," I said, "and that's the point." Silence stretched between us. The music swelled, violins and soft percussion filling the gap. "Well," he murmured, "goodbye, Claire." "Goodbye, Daniel." I turned before he could say more, my heels clicking against the marble. The crowd swallowed me, and I didn't look back. Under the chandelier's golden glow, I found myself on the dance floor. A colleague from the finance team offered me his hand. "Dance?" he asked. "Why not?" We moved to the rhythm, the city skyline glittering through the glass walls. For the first time in years, I felt weightless. The music wrapped around me, the laughter and warmth of the room pulling me further from the shadows of my past. It wasn't just revenge. It was freedom. And it was mine. Ethan leaned against my office doorframe. "You're still here." "Paperwork," I said, though my eyes weren't on the files in front of me. He stepped in, closing the door behind him. "You've been sitting here for hours. What's really going on?" I slid a folder toward him. "Look at the name." He flipped it open, scanned the top line, and whistled softly. "Daniel Reeves? Applied for a position at one of our subsidiaries." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "And you have the final say?" "Yes." I tapped the file. I could hire him, make him report to me every single day. He studied me for a moment. "And you're tempted?" I leaned back in my chair. "Wouldn't you be?" "Sure," he said. "But then what?" "You watch him squirm for a few months, maybe a year, and then..." I smirked faintly. "And then nothing. That's the point. I could decide when it ends." Ethan shook his head. "That's still giving him space in your life. Space he doesn't deserve," I murmured. "Exactly." I looked down at the resume. The bullet points were neat, the tone professional, but I could almost hear his voice under every word, that same smooth confidence, the one that used to own every room. "He's desperate," I said. "Probably," Ethan replied. "But desperation's not your problem anymore." I traced my finger along the edge of the paper. "I could end this with one click. I could also start something I'm not sure I want." Ethan stepped closer. "You already won, Claire. Keeping him around to prove it again just drags you backwards. You think deleting it is the right move?" "I think deleting it is the only move." I stared at the screen. The cursor blinked next to his name like it was daring me. "He doesn't belong in my world." I said finally. No, Ethan agreed. He doesn't. I hovered over the delete button. It's strange. A year ago, I would have taken the chance to make him feel small. A year ago, you were still healing. And now you're leading, he said simply. I pressed delete. The file vanished. Just like that, I exhaled, leaning back. It's done. Ethan smiled faintly. That's closure. Feels lighter than I thought it would. That's because you're not carrying him anymore. I glanced at the city lights outside my window. I guess I'm done chasing revenge. You were never chasing him, Ethan said. You were chasing yourself. I looked at him, the truth settling in. Maybe I finally caught up. He gave a small nod. Time to go home, boss. I stood, grabbed my coat, and switched off the desk lamp. Yeah, time to go home. The office went dark behind me, and I didn't look back. Table by the window? The barista asked. Yes, I replied, glancing toward the glass. The same glass I'd stared through months ago. Watching Daniel walk away, Ethan appeared at my side, phone in hand. Investors are running 5 minutes late. Good, I said. Gives me time to breathe. He smirked. You're never this calm before a big meeting. I smiled faintly. Maybe I'm not the same person you used to know. He tilted his head. You mean the woman who once cried in this very spot? Yes, her. The barista returned with our drinks. Here you go. Anything else? No, thank you. Ethan took a sip. You've come a long way, Claire. I glanced out the window. It doesn't even hurt anymore. You thought it would forever. I did. I looked at my reflection in the glass, steady eyes, shoulders back. But now, I feel untouchable. That's what growth looks like. I let out a quiet laugh. Growth or armor? Maybe. Both, he said. The bell above the door jingled. A group of well-dressed strangers entered, scanning the cafe until they spotted me. Miss Lawson? One of them asked. I stood, offering my hand. Yes, please sit. They introduced themselves. One by one, names, accents, firm handshakes. We settled into polite conversation about market trends and expansion plans. Halfway through, I caught sight of a familiar silhouette outside. Daniel. He paused, noticing me through the glass. His expression faltered. Recognition, surprise, maybe regret. One of the investors leaned forward. Is something wrong? I shook my head. Not at all. Please continue. Daniel lingered for a moment, as if deciding whether to come in. Then he turned and walked away. I didn't watch him go. Your proposal, the lead investor said, is ambitious. But we like ambition. I smiled. Then I think we'll work well together. They exchanged glances, nodding. Ethan slid a document toward me. Sign here, and we can finalize. The pen felt light in my hand. I signed without hesitation. Congratulations, the investor said, standing. Thank you. I look forward to building something extraordinary. When they left, Ethan sat back. You didn't even flinch. Why would I? Because a year ago, seeing him would have sent you spiraling. I took a slow sip of coffee. A year ago, I thought my worth depended on him. Now I know better. Ethan smiled. That's the real win. I looked out at the street, bustling, bright, alive. I didn't need to destroy him to be free. I just needed to outgrow him. Mission accomplished, he said. I stood, grabbing my coat. Let's get to the office. We've got a future to build. And as we walked out, the girl who once begged for Daniel's love stayed behind, somewhere in the past where she belonged. The rain blurred the streetlights into gold smudges. I was halfway to my car when a voice stopped me. Claire? I turned. Daniel stood there, coat damp, hair clinging to his forehead. It's been a while, I said. Almost a year, he replied, his gaze flicking over me. You look different. I am. He stepped closer, water dripping from his sleeves. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. You just did. I glanced toward my car. Wait, his voice cracked. Can we talk? I folded my arms. About what? Us. There is no us, he winced. I know I hurt you. You did more than hurt me, I said softly. You broke me, but I fixed myself. He searched my face. You don't sound angry. I'm not, then. What do you feel? Pity. His jaw tightened. I didn't come to be pitied. Then you shouldn't have stopped me. For a moment, all I could hear was the rain tapping against the pavement. I thought about you, he said. A lot. That's unfortunate. I stopped thinking about you months ago. He gave a humorless laugh. You really changed. I had to. My life's not about you anymore, Daniel. Do you ever miss what we had? I shook my head. I miss who I thought you were, not who you turned out to be. He swallowed hard. I made mistakes. We all do. The difference is, I learned from mine. He looked down at the puddles between us. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm sure you are. That's it? No forgiveness? I forgave you a long time ago, I said. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want you in my life. His eyes lifted to mine. So this is really it. This ended the day you walked away. The rain softened, a faint drizzle now. I thought I'd feel better seeing you, he murmured. And it hurts. I stepped back toward my car. Pain has a way of teaching us what we should have valued sooner. He didn't follow. Goodbye, Claire. I nodded once. Goodbye, Daniel. My heels clicked against the wet pavement, each step pulling me further from the man who once held my heart. I opened my car door, the warm interior light spilling over me. As I slid inside, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror, calm, steady, unshaken. The girl who once begged for scraps of his love was gone. The woman who replaced her had nothing left to prove. I didn't need to look back to know he was still standing there, watching, because this wasn't his ending. It was mine, and I'd already won.